I saw that you were like in the county up to yesterday.
Yes. It's part of my constituency visit. I went to Gbarpolu district. It's my first time back since the election.
To go to that part?
To that part. So it was really refreshing to reconnect with constituents, listen to some of the challenges there.
It's a very rural, even though your county is rural, but is that district rural?
Very, very rural, very, very traditional. It's the center of culture in our county, if you will. So, yes, it is.
And how was it?
It went very well. It went very well. We had the opportunity to listen to our people, some of the challenges they have there. Important among them are self-security because of the lack of national security presence there. So you do community policing, and then the challenge of dispensing justice in that kind of a situation so that everybody gets due process. We talk about that. We're able to go in there with the commander for the LNP in that district to listen to some of the concerns. The biggest challenge for them really is manpower to deploy to all of those areas, and also movement in terms of moving around to ensure that people can see and feel their presence, and how to move lawbreakers to Gbarpolu City, where the courthouse is for processing and so on. The other thing we talk about was healthcare, specifically the clinic there. I'm happy to report that the clinic is open
in Gbarpolu district.
In Gbarpolu district. I recall when I was campaigning, it wasn't. There was no staff there. It just was not working. But going back, I saw it open.
Did you play any role in it?
Well, the role that I played in it was to send some medication and some medical supplies that I was able to mobilize through my personal support. But this credit goes to the government for opening it, even though there are still some challenges. But the fact that it's open and servicing our people is a good thing. We still need to beef it up. I have my own reports and videos that I will share with the Minister of Health and with the chairman of our health committee, Senator Vapila from Cape Mount County, when we reopen for session later this week. The other thing we talked about was education for the children. We also sent some support there for their classrooms, books for reading and so on. But the issue of volunteer teachers still is a problem.
It's like some of the other districts in the rural counties where sometimes an entire school have 1 or 2 teachers.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of those teachers are even volunteers.
Yes, and sometimes the burden of keeping them there is on the parents. So whenever the parents can afford,
people are saying that you're too low, so you should speak a little louder.
Whenever people, the parents can afford to keep them there, of course they have to go to the mines or to do hunting or do farming in order to support their family there. So it leaves the children vulnerable. It leaves the children in the classrooms without teachers. So these are things that we've been raising in the Senate, if you've been following us recently, but I wanted to go to see firsthand how this was in that part of my county. So these are things that we'll be reporting back to our colleagues and also to the appropriate sector agency heads.
Do you usually go to Gbarpolu?
Yes, I visit Gbarpolu. I'm from Bama district, so I've been there. I've covered pretty much that part. Gbarpolu, of course, I go there. Bokomo was the next, and I plan to go to Komba this weekend. But a major death has happened, and I want to use this opportunity to extend my condolences to the families of the former representative Kuya from District Number 3. He passed away a few days ago. I just came from the family, and we will be working with them and other colleagues in the caucus to support them in his burial. So we will be postponing my visit to Kumba until we can bury him, give him a befitting burial before I go there.
Let me take you to this. Did you experience, did your people tell you, or have you noticed issues of rising prices? Did you hear?
I also saw it. You know, the major driver for the rising prices across the country generally, not just Gbarpolu, has to do with the increase in the prices of gasoline and fuel. And then when you add the road conditions to that, that exacerbates the situation. Fuel prices have gone up, and therefore transport costs have gone up. When people in districts like Bokomo come to Gbarpolu to get commodities, and in the event they cannot get certain commodities in Gbarpolu, they have to come to all the way Monrovia. Getting the commodities to that part of the country costs a lot of money, and you know they will have to mark up the price to make sure that they can at least break even, if not make profit. You know, so this is the main issue. So I know that this has nothing to do with what we do here. The problem in Iran is not our making, but we are feeling it. Our people are feeling it. I hope when we come back in the next few days, we in the Senate, the legislature in general, the executive can focus on how we can give our citizens some relief.
But there was already hardship. There's almost always hardship from Salif to now, but it is almost that people think the hardship increases with every administration, because when we are king, they say, anytime better, things hard. Then now Bakata is saying, we are turning things better, things hard.
True, I agree with you. There has always been hardship since the end of our war, even though our country is relatively stable. But what the government can continue to do is to do what it is doing: macroeconomic stability. There's no question about that. We have inflation in check. We have the exchange rate is doing well against the US dollar. We have a performing budget in terms of revenue and so on. But our challenge now is how can we translate that into improving the conditions of our people. You will recall that sometime last year, after the July 26 celebrations, President Boakai commissioned a team led by the Vice President to look at the rising prices at the time. At the time, inflation was almost in double digit at the time. The central bank did its part to bring inflation down into single digit. The Vice President and his team worked to understand the pricing in the market and how the government could intervene, even though it is always good for market forces to adjust the prices of commodities. But in this case, for major commodities like rice, flour, and so on, the government made some intervention, and relatively the price of rice has been stable. We have to say that. But you know, with the increase in the price of fuel, which is the main thing that can move vehicles and commodities from one place to another, that increase in the fuel price has also increased the cost of getting those major commodities to consumers outside of Monrovia. And business people are not in the business for charity. They want to make profit. So this is where people are complaining about, you know, the hard time and so on and so forth, especially when when income levels have remained stagnant or decreasing. You see what I mean? So in that case, there will always be hard time, but it doesn't mean that the government is not making effort. It's just that we are stuck in what I would call the Malthusian trap in economics.
What does that mean?
Yeah, Thomas Malthus, an economist, put a theory out there that talks about the relationship between population growth and resource constraints. So when your population is growing higher than your economy, faster than your economy, then you have a situation where no matter what you do, everybody's not going to be happy because the resources are not enough to affect everybody.
In this case, they could be enough, but you, the legislature, over time, not necessarily you in particular or this current one, but over time, hasn't done, or the government hasn't done what it needed to do to ensure that we maximize the potential of the resources that we have to get more out of concessionaires that are here.
That's a valid argument, and it's something that you cannot dispute. It's on paper, and we see it. And you know, I have to say that we have been conflict-free now for more than 2 decades. So it's one thing to have a strategy at the beginning, in the early stages of your post-conflict recovery, where you give up a lot of incentives just to attract the investors to come into your country. But then there are clauses in these agreements that calls for reviews and so on. So when you bring them in, and then you give them incentives to organize, to invest, and get to a certain level, when the 5-year review comes into play, you should also negotiate for the country to get better. Let's not forget, these concessions that we have negotiated and signed with these companies are capital intensive. They require a lot of money. And so we're giving them incentives for them to invest until they get to break-even point. And then when they get to break-even point and start making profit, the country should be getting more than even the investor in certain cases.
But how?
But we're not doing that.
But how and when do we know that they got to break-even point? Or
Yeah, we're not doing that. And I think I'm not passing the ball here from the legislature to the executive, but the Bureau of Concession was created precisely to help us with that. And Letty is doing its work in terms of highlighting the accountability issues in these concessions. I know that the legislature could do more. I know there are discussions in there, frustrations in all of us that we are not doing as much as we should.
Yeah, there is a report on that titled Salt on the Ground, Liberia's legislature auctioned the nation's subsoil one pickup truck at a time. The saga of mineral-rich nation poor, the documented story of how Liberia's lawmakers saw a country they were elected to protect. It is a historical account that comes from the past up to present, written by one Fanta Amara. She captures you this way. So let me hear your response to this. She says in one of the paragraphs, Senator Amara Konneh, who publicly championed the Ivanhoe Agreement, abstained on the final vote. Analysts attributed his reversal to long-standing relationships with senior ArcelorMittal figures. No public explanation was offered or required.
That's very interesting. I'm just hearing that for the first time.
Yeah, I will send the link to you so you read the full article.
Thank you very much. You know, I'm glad that Ivanhoe got the deal, and I'm looking forward to them making sure that the mine they have in Guinea can be exploited and exported through Liberia. Up to the point of us taking the vote, we were concerned about the operability of that mine in Guinea because no one from the executive branch or Ivanhoe demonstrated to us that there was some kind of a dialogue happening between the GOL and the government of Guinea about moving Guinean ore through Liberian port. That was the singular reason for me to abstain, because I saw that as a red flag.
Because there needed to be
correct
an agreement that says, yeah, Guinea accepts that.
Yes, there needed to be an agreement showing to us in the Senate that, look, the last step in this is for Liberia to give the green light by, ratifying this agreement, and then the oil will move. Then it will just unlock a lot of things. We haven't seen that, and since we took the vote that day, we haven't heard that. I know where the author is coming from. Dr. James Colley, who served as my deputy minister at Finance, is a consultant with ArcelorMittal. So because of that relationship, she may have concluded that I abstained because of that relationship, but it had no part to play on my decision to abstain over there. Number one. Number two, a committee was put in place,
I remember,
led by the chairman, Senator Sir Joseph, whose report was never read in plenary. Even if we disagree with the way he may have led the committee to that point, I think we deprived the Liberian people the opportunity to get to hear about the findings that were in that report, so that they could benefit from, while we were taking the decisions we were taking. But that didn't happen, and I thought that was something that we can correct in the future.
what is your relationship with the other senators of Capitol Hill?
Very well. I think my relationship is well. When I first came in the Senate, I think when you look at this Senate, there was not a lot of turnover from the last election. Yeah, a lot of people came back. So this is a group that had been together for six years prior, some of them 9 years before that with different groups. So they know each other and so on. So I was a new guy, a stranger, if you will. I had left government back in 2016 when I resigned as Minister of Finance to pursue other interests in the multilateral space. So when I came back, it was like there's this new guy here. So a lot of them didn't trust me. Myself didn't trust them. So it takes time to build that trust in a work environment. And so 2 years gone by, and I think we have pretty much very good relationship at the committee level, at the personal level, at the plenary levels, and it's something that we can always improve on. But I have good working relationship from the pro tem to other colleagues.
Well, you came on a fire from Senator Nyana Twan.
Yeah, I knew that question was going to come.
About comments you made, which seemingly were exposing national security issue, and you reportedly were in awe of Guinean military prowess over your country, sort of a traitor kind of behavior.
Very unfortunate, very, very unfortunate. But it's the typical legislative politics. When I was Minister of Finance, I was a member of the National Security Council for 4 years, the 4 years that I served as Minister of Finance. No one can tell you that I divulged national security information during that period. That was a period when, our country was still under threat from the remnants of the war. The regional situation was also the same way, because you had situation in Guinea, Sierra Leone was still going through its own political transitions and so on. So let me tell you something, Julius. I am like a ship carrying a cargo with no destination port. I have a lot of information in my head about the Martian fire and stuff like that has to do with national security. I've never told anybody. So my intention was not to make my colleague, Senator Twayen, to believe that I was trying to praise Guinea. I was just coming from the angle where I thought that we could have done more for the armed forces of Liberia in the supplemental budget. the executive branch submitted a budget, a draft budget for the Armed Forces of Liberia of 600,000. And I'm not trying to get the executive branch in trouble. This is fact. You can check the draft budget online, is there. Maybe because I'm saying it now, people will get angry, but this is true. So for us to be working on our borders, we all applaud the diplomatic approach, but you have to repair the roof when the sun is shining. So we are fighting against a more powerful aggressor in number size and equipment size. So the idea was to raise the urgency around financing our military so they can begin to rise up to the. That was my intention. The intention was not, and the information that I put out there was just public information about different organizations.
I'm not saying you spoke in glowing terms of Guinea and even referring to you as Guinean. How do you react to that?
Well, I'm a Mandingo man, and I did not choose to be one, even though I'm very proud to be one. When my parents got married, they born me, and that's who I am. I can never change that, and I'm very, very proud of who I am.
No,
but I'm coming. I'm coming.
Guinean.
No, you need to. You know, I talk about this harassment at the checkpoint. I came on an attack. In leadership, leadership is a very dangerous adventure. You can choose to be politically correct and take your salaries and all your benefits, or you can choose to talk about the issues that nobody wants to talk about in order to fix it so that we can all be better people. The reason I bring the Mandingo question in is because Guinea is predominantly Mandingo. When the migration happened to the coast, people know that we came, my ethnic group came from Mali Empire. Other ethnic groups came from that area.
Yeah, Songhai Empire.
But the focus is on us. So the moment I speak, they will say, oh, because he's a Mandingo man, therefore he's speaking glowingly. Let me tell you, when the war came here, I had never left this country. When I was born in my mother's kitchen floor in Bassa Camp in 1971.
Bassa Camp where?
Yeah, in Gbarpolu Camp.
Oh, they got Bassa Camp in Gbarpolu?
Yes, Bassa Camp, Bala Camp, in Mandingo town, in the Bassa town. In one town. I was born on the Bassa side. My father was the chief there. The only time I went beyond Monrovia was when I was in junior high school, went to Panga for a football game. But it's Monrovia and Gbarpolu I knew. So when the war came and I survived from among my siblings and made it across, I was referred to as born here, die here, meaning you're born in Liberia, you die there, you're not part of us, even though I was Mandingo, speaking Mandingo and so on. So everybody can tell you about that. The Guineans were not too receptive of us. So I became like the Germany and Austria 1940 Jew who had no place to go until I was opportune to go to the US. So when you hear me talk about this, I've lived this experience. And so when I hear it again from people, when I see it happening, and I have to speak up or else I will be enabling that. And since I am a national leader, these are issues that most people don't feel comfortable discussing, not discussing. The real reason why people are saying, oh, I said what I said, they didn't see the positive in it, in pushing, in advocating for more money for our military, but so that we can come up par, even if we don't come 100% to Guinea's position because they're a much bigger country, larger population than we are, but we should be strong enough to stand our ground. When we all saw young Liberians with stakes and cutlasses going to that spot and putting our national flag, the symbol that protects all of us, we were all proud. They could have been shot. Yeah. But they were patriotic, they went there. Tomorrow.
And since then,
yeah,
that border has been taken over by Guinean soldiers. Does it concern you?
It does concern me. That's what I'm hearing. Again, I've not gotten any official briefing yet. either at the level of the Senate or maybe from security personnel.
Well, it was claimed that I think Senator Twain alluded to the fact that there was some meeting people had, there was some briefing you got out from the executive also.
Oh no, the president.
Classified security.
No, there was no classified discussion. We had a budget meeting, and Senator Twain and I are very good colleagues. I was just surprised at his outburst, and I don't know if it was because he did not have the opportunity in plenary to counter debate me, to counter argue, because if you watch the video, he raised order when I was speaking. The presiding officer, in her wisdom, the pro tem, didn't think that I was doing anything wrong. She asked me to continue, and I finished my debate. I thought at that point he would have raised his hand and then argue me there, because in that room is where we speak our mind. But unfortunately, he didn't do that. But instead, he went on social media and posted that, and it became this firestorm. But at no time did we have any discussion in our leadership and consultative meetings where we discuss a national security issue and so on. Since the president left the Senate, no other national security person has come to the Senate to officially brief us and told us that this briefing was classified information.
But why have
our chairman, SARS, a very dynamic chairman, is managing the security sector well. He will tell us when things are happening. He will tell us when we see stuff on social media. We send in the chat room. He will say, no, this is under control, or we are still investigating this, and so on. And that's good for us. But you're right. Maybe when we come back, we should invite the security team to tell us about the border situation. All this noise we're hearing that the Guineans are still occupying our territory is something that our government needs to inform the people's elected representatives and senators, so that we can find a way to support his diplomatic efforts while we build our military strength. This is the angle I was coming from.
You were still in trouble from the other side of the legislature. The House of Representatives, they reportedly wrote a letter. We didn't get it here, but then we got this release from the Senate. You were complaining, being critical of another side of that branch of government, like trying to meddle into their affairs.
True. This has to do with Honorable Yaka Kolba, the situation. As you know, each house has its own rules. I never talk about this because I'm not here to defend Yeke and what he may have done to his colleagues in the house. But we have to make sure that we respect the Constitution. Article 38 of our Constitution talks about each house setting their own rules, and they can take action, they can expel members, they can discipline them, but in accordance with due process of law in this Constitution at the end of Article 38. So the challenge for all of us is to understand what due process is. And I try to be very correct as I'm not a lawyer. The key components of Liberian due process are: one, fundamental rights protection, and you're talking about protection against the loss of life, liberty, property, or privileges. Second, judicial hearing requires a hearing judgment, a trial, or a formal proceeding. What they were doing was a formal proceeding, if you will. It was not a courtroom. And then they talk about speedy trial and no secret trials. Then it talks about rights to counsel. The accused individual is entitled to legal representation at every stage of an investigation. I'm describing to you what's Liberia's due process in our Constitution. Then the right to appeal. And then you have the 48-hour rule that requires that any person arrested or detained must be charged. In this case, a lawyer. But where I came in after they made their decision was that when I watched the 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 proceeding, Yake's lawyers that he brought with him were not allowed to defend him. In fact, Yake was told that his lawyers would have to speak through him. For me, I thought we should not allow that to happen in our proceedings, because we are denying him a major privilege that our due process clause in the Constitution gave him. So I express my opinion on that, but this is where I got in trouble with them. I used a culturally unacceptable word at the end of my statement when I said what we saw in the legislature was madness. They got offended by the word madness. You know, I went to school in America. I started my career there and so on. So I was, the context for madness in this case was not to insult them, but to say the process was, you know, theatrical and so on. And when my colleagues read, when the pro tem read the letter to us, I acknowledged that if I used a different word, maybe they were not going to write us. But using the word madness, they interpreted that as craziness and crazy people and so on. And so I was admonished to be careful about that in the future. This is where that letter came from.
And do you think you were wrong to say madness?
I just said it. I said it's culturally unacceptable in Liberia. So I take full responsibility for the use of that word, but I still stand by my principle that Yeke was not accorded due process on our Constitution.
But you also wrote on April 21, Liberia was once condemned yesterday and can become institutionalized today. And today the same thing has become the standard line in our governance debates.
Yeah.
Laws exist in every country, but there's a deeper truth that separates law from justice. Legality doesn't always mean morality. And morality doesn't always find its way into law. A dangerous pattern is being normalized in our governance architecture. That over time, what was considered bad governance and exploitation is being normalized, codified into legal proceedings, and even celebrated as virtue. Systems don't just permit behavior, they shape morality itself, rewriting right and wrong to protect what benefits them. So, the real question for Liberians isn't just about what's legal, but what's truly right. As a non-lawyer seeking insight and eyes, if injustice is embedded in rules protected by the Constitution, does following it make you just? You seem to be very concerned about the state of our politics, and it leads me to wonder: are you still heavily supportive of the government you helped to bring to power, especially in the second one?
I think heavily will be too on the high side, but I do, because I have supported President Bawumai's agenda in the Senate, except for Ivanhoe and Oranto, all the concessions he sent to us, the committee's work. I also did my own review and so on. I've supported his agenda, I've supported his nominees, I think, except for two, but I've practically supported all of the president's program. But what I have done and will continue to do is to take my time to review everything he sends us, and when I see error, I'll try to communicate first to the appropriate people and see if they can redress them to me or to the Senate. And if they ignore me, I'll flag it to the Senate and to the public. This is what they don't like, and I think they should appreciate that, because you have somebody who is not in
you are not a unity partisan, are you?
No, I'm not.
So which party are you a member?
I'm an independent.
And which party will you join?
I haven't made a decision yet.
How come?
Because our politics is polarizing. I don't think people are in politics here based on ideology. I think largely people are in politics based on survival. And when people get into survival mode, they will curse anybody who sort of question them They will isolate anybody who questions them. They will be distrustful of people who are not members of their party, and in the process, the country will be losing an opportunity to benefit from people who may have different views on how to solve particular problems. You can't have.
But that is what we have. I am hearing that either you are talking to Alco or Alco is talking to you.
Well, I'm talking to everybody.
Including CDC George Weah?
Including the UP as well. Including...
No, I asked specifically.
Yeah, I know.
George Weah, you were invited, I think, to some memorial of his father. And, I mean, again, it went viral on social media. Oh, Amara is talking back to opposition. And
yeah. And I think that's true. Former President Weah invited me to his father's. I honored the invitation.
Let's come a little closer.
I honored the invitation. I was glad that I went there because it made me to see a different side of him and his family and so on, the story of his father, and honoring the father. Us Muslims, if you don't mind me digressing a little bit, we are told that when our parents die, they don't take anything with them. It's only the good deeds, they earn here on earth. But they will continue to earn should their children continue to honor them in death and pray for them, and they will get that. The angels will take that to them, and it gives them relief in their grave and their resting places.
But did you talk politics there?
No, we didn't talk politics. Politics was never ever discussed. It was purely a solemn occasion.
Was there any conversation between you and him or the CDC side before that time?
No, we extend greetings at the program. He spent most of his time with the clergy in a different room. So we, the elected officials who were there, not just I alone, were, in one place and chatting. And then when we thought that it was appropriate to leave, we went and told him goodbye and we left. There was no political discussion.
You seem to have been ostracized by the Unity Party, placed on the periphery. And it appears to me that I have this feeling that there's some kind of conversation happening and we could see you on the other side.
Well, ostracizing is a harsh word. They are all...
No, you're not, sir. The way you were involved in the second round, you were around the center of activity. Now you are nowhere around those places. Even when the government just came to power, or when the government won the election, you went with the then elected president to the US and started pressing all kinds of buttons and all of that. Now you are no longer in that cycle. We don't see you anywhere around. That's being ostracized.
Because that's the expectation of the spectators, those who watch us from the periphery. They watching the center from the periphery. Expect that when you do something remarkable, as I did, you expect to leverage that politically to gain influence and so on. I've been over the influence game when I was here with former President Sirleaf. I know what I went through. I know how it almost damaged me. I know the impact it had on me, health-wise and so on. I didn't return to Liberia.
Well, were there some witchcraft activity?
No. I will never say that.
Okay.
It was just...
stress and all that?
Yeah, those who work for me will tell you that I am a workaholic. I'm a detailed person. I want to make sure that I get the facts before I even present them to my boss or talk to the public. So I try to drive my team as much as possible. So I worked very hard, at that time, especially when Ebola engulfed our country. People were dying, the economy was in a free fall. It put a lot of pressure on me. I needed to step back and then reflect on that and see what else I could do. And I think the World Bank gave me that space. 7 years at the bank was rewarding. I got to know the continent. I got to know other continents. I got to build strong networks and so on in the international space. But we all come to public service for different reasons. But there's one thing that brings all of us into public service, is to serve the country. So how you, Julius, will do your service and how Amara will do mine are two different things.
Mm-hmm.
So when people saw what I did, when I met with President Barker, he made one request. He said, I want you to help me to protect the vote. I believe I won the election in the first round. But I believe I don't think my people kept their eyes on the ball. So I want you to help me do exactly what you did for, again, Ellen and I, I'm quoting him, in 2011, because what we did in 2023, we actually did it in 2011. And so we knew that we're not going to get the election in the first round, on the first round ballot, and so on. Then I said, okay, fine. There was no quid pro quo. Other people from different broad parties, the other party came in, NDR came in, and all on. There was quid pro quo. They made them. I never made any demand, and he never made any promises to me. And when I realized that that space I was in was mimical of the space I had left prior, and the fact that I was out for 7 years, and all these people who were now fighting for influence were here with him through the struggle, I decided on my own to give them the space to reap the benefit of their labor, because I didn't return to Liberia to be a part of that. So it was a personal choice. You will recall that even during the transition, 1 week before it ended, I left the transition team officially and said, I don't want a conflict of interest. I want to focus on the Senate so that, when people come for confirmation, I can do my own due diligence on them before I give them my vote. So Julius, I was the coordinator for the campaign in the second round. When I went to the US with the president, I was still coordinator. And some of the president's closest friends and political allies were not on that trip, so they blamed me for keeping them off the trip. But the truth was, he was president-elect, he was not president yet. So all the places we were able to secure appointments in Washington, D.C. said that it was 5 + 1, 5 members plus the president-elect, because they didn't want a big delegation to make it look like he was already president. They didn't want to disrespect former President Weah, who was president at the time. But that was not communicated, so people flew from here to Washington to be part of that delegation, so the country could see them as being in the president's inner circle. This is where the fight started from. So they saw Amara Konneh as the obstacle. The same influence he had with Ellen, he's about to start it here. They came back and they just started, planning all kinds of bad stuff about me. I got text messages in my phone from people who were saying that you think this, what you did, this, I didn't want none of that. I have a family, I have my children, and I came to serve the country.
Wow.
And that is why I stepped back and focused on my Senate work.
This is revelatory.
Yes. There's a lot to reveal at the right time. This is just like a tip of the iceberg. But I came with good intention, with clean hearts, to help the old man to win. I know that my friends in the CDC will get angry when they hear this. I felt that at some point they took their eyes off the governance ball and more on the politics. Is the military party
doing that too now?
They are doing it, but not in a noisy fashion that the CDC did it. And this is where I'm not advising them, I'm not their advisor, but I believe this is where they're making error. You can't attack every dissenting voice. You can't attack everybody who thinks that something may not be working the way you see it. I think the good thing would be to do is to listen carefully and then internally hold yourself accountable to fixing them. Somebody like Councillor Gonglo is going around the country, and you're not going around the country, and he's pointing critical stuff out and making recommendations to the president. It's a good thing. Midterm, there will be no midterm election during this administration. It's a good and bad thing. Good thing in the sense that, you don't have the distraction of elections and so on. But bad thing is that it keeps you in the bubble. Because the elections are the yardstick for whether you're doing good or not. And in our culture, what I have learned in the Liberian culture, when they are silent and quiet, it means that they've had enough. And it should worry you. So it's like in our own home, your spouse, your girlfriend that you live with, even your child. When they start talking to you, it means that they are frustrated about something. You have to make an effort to find out from them what is disturbing them. But that's not happening here. And the only way they will have known that, all this stuff they're doing, so the government just released 2 major reports. The AAID report
and
the budget execution report. All right, I don't know how many Liberians know about this, and I don't know how many people have read it. You're sorry if I come across as arrogant. I'm not trying to say I don't read. I don't want to be offensive. But this is where, in an off midterm administration, you can now begin to understand what the government is doing. And, I am really looking at these 2 reports, preparing to come back and begin to have conversations with my colleagues in the Senate. Hopefully they will listen to me from the oversight perspective so that we can go through the report together to understand why is it that we've collected more revenues, but our recurring expenditure is eating up most of that money, and the AAID project are heavily donor supported than domestically generated revenue.
It is something that we could have gone to. It was part of my questions, but because of time, folks, I had originally planned an hour 30 minutes for this, but then we had the LTA coming in.
He doesn't do me justice. He cuts my time all the time.
Yeah.
And then I come in.
But we'll see. We have to do a part 2 to go through those.
We got to protest.
Reports. I'm on side. Got to read those reports.
Yeah.
We have just 4 minutes for calls, so we'll take 3 calls, folks. Sorry for that, but that's all we can do. 777-995-555-995-995. Very, very revealing bits and pieces here. Welcome. Let's hear you. Go ahead, friend.
That's my friend from Paris.
My man, where you tell that other story from? Yeah, but what is your question to Senator Konneh? Yeah, but my man, we got enough time, so just ask your question. Okay, thanks so kindly. Let's take former Senator H. Don Morales, former Superintendent as well, Maryland County. Welcome, sir.
Hey, Senator.
Yes, Senator, how are you? Good to hear your voice.
Not bad, bro. In the academia, there's something we always say that speaks of whatever we do. We say lessons learned.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you've learned some lessons. And when you were minister, as presiding officer of the Senate, I invited you on many occasions. And I think at one time we almost always threatened to carry you.
I remember that. And Councillor Gonglo was my lawyer.
Correct. But you really carried Councillor Gonglo to talk. You took a friend and a brother who was close to us to speak to you on many issues. And that was Dr.
Yeah, Dr. Colley.
Dr. Colley.
James Colley, yes.
Correct. And so you were able to survive all that we tried. I'm saying on the other leg, if the young man from the House of Representatives attempted to carry one of the colleagues or somebody closer to speak to them, to speak the same language, I don't think it was better of the way.
Oh, I agree with you. I agree with you.
Okay, sir.
I agree with you.
Because of time, let's just.
My issue has to do with the due process.
Let me squeeze in this final caller for 30 seconds quickly.
Yeah, what's up to Julius?
Mm-hmm.
So let me say thank you and let me make a public confession today. You might not know me personally, if you see me, you know me. But your first instance that I admire was after the election 2011. You go and put young people, some of them
Yeah.
said that to send them to school. I was proud of that. And way around looking down or support Bashir. And you didn't care about the political party.
No.
But because I was very strong on my CDC nature, I couldn't continue that growth. Taking on the leadership, you recruited me as the Minister of Finance regardless of politics. And here's what I can say to you, Senator. I've been doing some analysis. You talk about the budget, you talk about the report. This government is doing a lot of things there. My general issue I have with you, as a former finance minister, you have left something to pass on the carpet for us to do it very well.
Oh.
So,
All the way I'm scrutinizing and say I'm not doing well. I'm not doing well.
and you can use me, but I really hope that you can go beyond this bound and stand as a former finance minister to raise some critical issues.
Okay.
Sincerely, I like your style, and then I owe you that on 2 occasions you brought me closer without discriminating on political basis.
Okay, thanks so kindly. We'll go back to him now. Benedict Kolba. I can usually have him here. He was Assistant Minister of Finance.
Oh, that's Benedict?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah,
just 30 seconds, we'll come back to you. Mm-hmm. Just to wrap up, 30 seconds.
Well, Julius, thank you for inviting me. I wish we had more time.
Yeah, next time we got
to
try
but I'm glad that you were able to ask me about what happened in the Senate on the night we closed. My intention there was to raise the urgency around military financing so that we can be in a stronger. We should not leave this border crisis with our children and our grandchildren. Nothing less, nothing more. But it was legislative politics, and I look forward to working with Senator Toyen on many other issues we are working on, and my colleagues upon our return.
Okay. Well, I'm just feeling that we will see you on the opposition side in 2029.
Why you keep saying that?
That's the feeling I'm getting.
Based on what?
I don't know, but that's how I feel.
No.
Okay.
You can't say that.
Okay.
I can never say never. But we'll continue to play our role in providing critical voices on governance to the extent that things don't improve. If they don't, then we'll have to make a decision at that point.
Okay. Thanks so kindly. His name is Senator Amara Konneh of Gbarpolu County. Tomorrow we'll be here with Cassell